the question on our minds is why? Why are tourists saying Ghana is expensive? And I mean, what do we do in response to that? Our guest, Ben Anane Nsiah, Deputy Chief Executive in charge of General Service at the Ghana Tourism Authority, joins us on the phone alongside Nana Yao, who is a hotelier here in Accra. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for making
Good morning to your listeners.
Indeed. Now, listen, before we take a break, let me just ask you this, Ben. 40% of those who were surveyed say Ghana is expensive. Are they wrong?
I think you must take the report in its totality for it to make sense. If 40 people say something is high, which means 60 people are saying it is not high. You see what I'm saying? So I think for us to better interpret what it says, I mean, what the findings of that survey, we should dig a little deeper. That survey was done during the December period. You know, we have created this December in GH thing. So it's not a reflection of the entire, tourist appreciation of the destination score from January to December, but it is still reflective enough. Now, if we look at who says it's high, if you drill down further, it's the Ghanaians who are saying it's expensive. 55% of them are saying it is expensive. But if you check the Americans and so on, the majority of them are saying that it's a normal destination. Now, that is not to say that Ghana is not, some prices in Ghana are not higher than in some other destinations. It's the nature of the destination, the experiences one can have, and so on. If you look at the breakdown of tourist expenditure, we are very much aligned with global trends. For example, 34% of expenditure is made on accommodation, 19% on entertainment, food and beverage about 15%, shopping about 13%, which is perhaps even lower than other places, and so on. But if you look at where, because you can have two kinds of tourists. One comes and decides to stay in Tempiski Hotel. He will pay $400 a night. Somebody comes, he takes an Airbnb somewhere. He and his family of three, they spend $100 per night on accommodation. So obviously, one is spending more. So to just take that 44 might not be a true reflection of the real situation on the ground. If you look at the numbers are climbing. We've actually exceeded pre-COVID levels. And also the expenditure, the average length of stay has increased from 14 to 17 days. Now, if the destination was that terrible, people will vote with their feet. But we see an upward trajectory. However, it's also true that, for example, for a good 4-star hotel, say in Dubai, you probably get it cheaper than what you get for comparative facilities in Ghana. But if you go to a good restaurant in Dubai, it probably might cost you more than a comparable restaurant in Accra. So we have to be a little measured in making that outright claim that Ghana is an expensive destination. Ghana is not.
Okay, well, that's an interesting opener to the conversation. Nane, I'll touch on you very quickly. Look, what are your guests saying to you? Does it match what Ben is saying, that actually majority of them think it's not expensive?
Well, good morning once again. I have not seen the report yet. But as a hotelier, what I can tell you is that I charge rates that will make me survive. You understand? So if they are saying it's expensive relative to which country or to where? That is what I want to know. Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that you will charge a high rate and still survive in this industry. So maybe we have to look at the breakdowns of our expenditure, and then we will be able to understand where the hotelier comes from.
Right.
You understand? I mean, there are so many things that go into it. Every time that I've had the opportunity to talk on your platform, I've advocated for things that we can do in this country to make sure that when the tourists come, they enjoy the country. You understand? If you have to pay so much electricity bill, And if the power is not stable and you have to spend so much on diesel, then certainly I'll have to pass it on to the customer. There's no way I can survive if I have to absorb all this all by myself as a small hotel. So, I mean, if they say it's expensive, well, I don't know. I don't know where they are comparing it to. But for me, I think that for the rate I charge, they should be fine.
Now, Ben, you make the point that the cost of visiting Ghana is appropriate to the experience, and that you're wondering who we are being compared to when we are called expensive. Well, I mean, let's compare ourselves to the other African countries that are pushing tourism. So Kenya, South Africa, Egypt, Rwanda. I know that in South Africa, a 5-star hotel, you can get a room in a 5-star hotel for about $110. I did just a few weeks ago. But in Ghana, a 0-star hotel will charge you about $500 for a week's stay. I think that is fair to say that we are, in comparison, Ghana is more expensive. The question is why?
I come to that. I just like to point out a little thing about the comment the previous guy said. We are not talking about living in Ghana. You know, it's different. If you're living here as an expatriate, it's different from the tourist experience, because there we are all paying rent advance 2 years, and so we accept those, and those are realities on the ground. And we know that we haven't dealt with our trash problem. We know that there's rubbish around. Much as we try, we're not running away from those things. So let's not confuse those experiences. But like I said, accommodation is not the only component of tourist expenditure. It's a significant component, absolutely. Yes, that's true. But there are reasons why things are that way in Ghana. They would tell you, the operators will tell you, for example, if you and your South African counterpart wanted to take loans to build hotels in different countries, your interest rate is probably higher than the other. So there are structural rigidities that may make those things a reality. But it's also a function of demand and supply. The numbers. I mean, we have deliberately tried to make December, the last month of December, early January, the go-to place in Ghana. Previously, the hotels were completely empty. You go there, all the businesses are gone for vacation, and they are just losing money. So as the numbers come in and there's higher demand and there's a response from the supply side, some of those things are bound to go down. I mean, if you were charging 400 and the rooms were empty, nobody would tell you that you should adjust those things. And remember that we've come from a history of a country where we have price controls and so on, which we don't have anymore. So really, it becomes almost unreasonable to legislate prices, to allow the market and the operators who also have an interest in continuous occupancy to deal with those issues. There's also the component of inputs for the hotel. The import component of the things we use here is so high. Your bedsheet is imported, even your butter, almost practically everything is imported, your furniture and everything. So if you have a challenge, you have to import. And then you have to deal with the CD depreciation and all of that. I'm not holding brief for them, but they are not greedy people. There's a reason why they are pushed into charging those prices sometimes. And so we have to work with that as we manage the macro angle that some of those things are dealt with. But all in all, even at these current prices, it is not fixed. You are not bound to stay in a 4-star hotel. They are equally good options. You see what I'm saying? And so if you really do want to come, I think what we offer is not it's not above board, and the experience you get, I believe, is worth what people are paying for. There are certain things we would like to see go down. For example, airfares to Ghana. For a comparative 6-hour flight, say from London, New York, or whatever, maybe you could find that it's much more expensive coming down here than going to other places. Those things we have to work with to make sure that we really lift tourists with more disposable income when they come down here.
Yeah.
We're working on things like visas. Electronic visas are almost imminent. They'll come into so that we remove some of the bottlenecks. But in terms of regulation of prices, that's really up to the business people to respond to the market demands.
Right. Now, Ben, you seem to be saying two different things, though.
I'm not.
First of all, you're explaining why things are expensive.
No,
but then
expensive is a relative function of an accepted okay price. What I'm saying is that, I mean, there are reasons why they charge what they charge. You know, I don't find them expensive.
Okay, yeah, all right. Then let's go along with that. Your claim is that you don't think that these prices are expensive. In fact, you think that the market will regulate itself as more and more numbers come in. Well, you pointed out that this survey was done during December last year, at the time when we had the most people here. The hotels were full. But that was the time people were complaining about things being expensive. So what does that mean? Are you suggesting that the hoteliers should have been making things a bit cheaper because there were lots of people, but they didn't? They failed to do so?
Maybe my other colleague who answered should pick up this question.
Well, first, I want to know what you are saying. Then I'll ask him to answer.
You know, what I'm saying is that, one, if there's an influx of people and there's a supply constraint, sometimes prices will push up because the demand, I mean, it's full. The rooms are full, so they can probably charge anywhere. If there were empty rooms, then there will be the incentive to go down. Otherwise, you would also think that because there's more people to fill the room, they'll go for volumes rather than price. But those ones, I think I would really want to leave it for the price people to decide to tell us why they charge what they charge those here.
Well, Nanaya, that's your cue. I guess you can now expand on what you were saying earlier. The suggestion
I
here
think my colleague on the other side has done an excellent job. You know, I think we have to situate this discussion in a proper context. I mean, if you talk about hotels in South Africa and other places, I don't think you are being fair because the kind of burden we face in this country, I don't think they face the same burden. You know, my colleague on the other side talked about interest on loans if I have to build a new hotel or if I have to expand on my hotel. Currently, I'm doing an expansion work in my hotel, and I have to sink so much money in it. Look, I mean, the amount of money I put in there, if I'm not careful, I will not be able to recoup my investment within a reasonable time. Maybe my great-grandchildren will not even be able to. You understand? I mean, we are talking about a situation where, as hotels, we have always talked about some of these bodies consolidating the bills they bring to us. For instance, you have, from the assembly, you have business operating permit, you have signboard fees, you have property rate, you have renewal of certificate, you have environmental health people coming. Okay? That is not all. You have Ghana Tourism Levy, you have EPA coming, you have Food and Drugs Authority, Fire Service, and TV license. I mean, I don't even get a TV signal from my place. The local TV, I use DSTV. You understand? That is not all. You talk about electricity bill, and it's so huge. Over the last year or two, my electricity bill has doubled. I was paying 1,000 Ghana cedis or thereabouts for water bill just about a year or two ago. Now I pay 8,000 Ghana cedis. Chlorine tablets and granules for treating my pool, the price has doubled. The linens I use, bedsheet, towels, curtains, they are all imported. And because of the situation with the currency, the price has doubled. I mean, so if you look at all this, the last time I went to buy water heater, a 10-liter Ariston water heater is now selling for about 2,000 Ghana cedis. If I have to replace it, it's cost.
Yeah.
You understand? I don't want to go into the food aspect. The price of chicken has doubled. Over the last year or two, sausage has doubled. How much is a crate of egg now? A crate of egg used to be sold at 20 Ghana cedis or 18 Ghana cedis just about a year or two ago. It's now 50 Ghana cedis. You understand what I'm saying? So if we look at all this and we want to compare to other places, other countries, I'm sure they have flat rates. For instance, I've talked about this VAT flat rate. If, for instance, I'm getting a 3% flat rate instead of what I'm charging now, the total of 21%, then I'll be able to reduce my price for people to be able to afford. But that notwithstanding, like my other colleague said, I think that most of the hotels in Ghana are not charging higher rates. It depends on who is talking. Because my hotel, my rate ranges between 620 Ghana cedis to 1,004.
Right.
All right? There's a neighboring hotel beside me charging about $300.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So it depends on where you want to go to. If, for instance, you want to go enjoy yourself in a 5-star hotel, I think that based on their cost component, they also decide on the rate they want to charge.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, you can charge certain rates if the demand is not there. If you are sitting in your hotel and charging 1,000 Ghana and people are not coming, I don't think that you can continue charging 1,000 Ghana when people are not coming. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I mean, let's look at this discussion very well. There's so much burden on the hoteliers in Ghana that it's not as if we just want to charge people anyhow. It is the cost component of what we are doing that makes us charge what we charge.
You charge what will make you survive, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Nana. Ben.
I'd like to add that accommodation is not the only cost for tourists. It's about, say, a third of the cost. Now, if you look at all the other things, like entrance fees to tourist sites, I don't know if anybody has gone to the Louvre or Madame Tussauds or something. Or if you compare the equivalent in Ghana, it's peanut. If you look at transportation, if you took, say, the National Express bus from London to Manchester, compare that to taking VIP from here to, say, Kumasi or Sunyani, it's just a pretense. Food. You can eat a decent meal in Ghana for 20, 30 cedis, which is, I don't know how many dollars that would be, $2 or something. So it's not true that the entire, value chain for the experience in Ghana is prohibitive. Taxis and Ubers in
Ben,
Ghana. Yeah, hello?
Ben, your 40% of your customers are telling you that your product is expensive, and you are telling them that it's not true. Aren't you worried?
I'm not saying that some people will not find it expensive. You see what I'm saying?
So what are you going to do about this 40%? Almost half. They are telling you that the thing is expensive. And your plan is to bring more people. So what are you going to do? Hello, do we have Ben?
Yeah, sorry, I just lost you for a second. Yeah.
So I'm saying 40% of them are telling you that it's expensive. Instead of saying it's not true, what can you actually do to ensure that this 40% change their mind and you can get more people, not less?
The critical thing is value for money. People should know that they've got a proper value for what they have done, what they have paid for, in terms of service quality, in terms of product quality. That is where there is a disconnect. But in terms of just the actual price of stuff, I am not convinced that Ghana is an expensive destination.
So you basically disagree with 40% of your customers?
Yes, I probably do.
Okay. So then they will just have to go and shop somewhere else, is what you're telling them. Ben, are you with us?
Yes, I am with you.
Yeah. So the conclusion is that the conclusion is that they will just have to go somewhere else because you disagree with them.
No, you're not saying that to hell with them. There are certain rigidities we can eliminate, but by and large, we have to offer. It's not the amount of money that should be reduced, but the service that we offer for that product must be comparable, must be fit for purpose. Then people can see that I spent X amount of money and I think I've got the value of that money. We can't necessarily push down prices artificially. It doesn't work that way.
And talking about, pushing down prices artificially, you've had Nanaya make the point, Ben, that they have to pay so many taxes. While it will be difficult to work
I think sometimes...
Please hold on, Nanaya. Ben, hold on. Can't the Ghana Tourism Authority begin an advocacy or begin discussions within government to have some of these taxes removed or reduced?
Well, taxes taxes are set by Parliament, the quantum and the figures and all of that. And most of these fees they are asking for, they are paid annually. Honestly, I'm sure if they put all the quantum of payments they do as a percentage of their operational revenues and returns, it might not be too outrageous. I mean, if they honestly did that. Maybe what they want is the inconvenience of having to deal with too many institutions and so on. I don't think it's the quantum that's the problem. I know he's talking about high electricity bills and so on and so on. But you have to put yourself in the national context. We know the challenges of the energy sector and so on. So some of these things, it becomes difficult to offer an immediate solution. You see what I'm saying?
Nanaya, are you talking about dealing with a lot of institutions, or you're unhappy?
Yeah, if the high electricity bill matter we are talking about, for instance, here
we're talking about the taxes.
If we want to stimulate tourism in this country, if the government believes that tourism forms a major part, of revenue for the country, why don't we look at, let's say, the hotel industry, for instance, or the hospitality industry, for instance, and fashion out a special rate for us? That is what we've been asking for. You understand what I'm saying? And then we also saying that this power crisis thing, they should be able to stabilize the situation, because we can't spend so much money buying diesel to power our plants. Definitely, if we have to spend so much, we'll have to pass on the cost. These are the things we are talking about.
So at this point, I mean, Ben, if you disagree with the 40% of those who say Ghana is more expensive, that means that nothing will be done to try and make it cheaper, because you don't think it's expensive.
I don't think that's what I'm trying to come. What I'm saying is that there are certain things that we can work to push down. You see, if we look at the breakdown of all the expenditure, for example, we are working at one of the problems they have, for example, is some of the comments was that our visa fees were high. If you drill down, so compared to say Senegal, it was like, I think it's about $25 and so on. And so that is being addressed by the electronic visa arrangement that is being done. So that can be sorted out. But immediately, we do not have a national airline in place, for example. We can only encourage or have an ongoing discussion with the airlines to see about reasonable pricing on the route, so that takes a chunk. But we don't control that. We don't control that. We can only continue to highlight it, but we don't control that.
Well, the hoteliers have given you a suggestion, Ben.
Yeah.
They are saying that in other parts of the world, fixed rates are negotiated for hospitality, where they want to boost tourism. They do that. So would the Ghana Tourism Authority not be interested in pioneering or, in advocating for some better rates on taxes, and not just taxes, but all of these local authority levies and so forth? Some better conditions for hoteliers so that they can accommodate your guests cheaper?
Precisely.
No, there's an ongoing dialogue. They know that there are discussions to address these on an ongoing basis.
Tell us about them.
We are the Ministry of Tourism. We can only make representations to, say, the Ministry of Local Government or the Ministry of Energy and so on. But ultimately, the decision would come from those sectors. And we cannot promise that we can, on our own, reverse things as they are. But there's an established private-public partnership forum, including the private sector, that on a consistent basis we present needs and grievances and issues to Parliament and so on. And they know it's not like we are not making those efforts. But they have to appreciate that some of those challenges are not things that can be resolved immediately.
Okay. Nanaya, I asked you earlier, that's part of my question. I asked about the taxes, because earlier Ben had indicated that maybe you have concerns with the number of institutions and not say the amount of taxes that you pay. So I want to know your take on this. Is it the case that...
So what I'm saying is that I mean, quite apart from the number of institutions coming, the rate, some of the rates they bring are so arbitrary. I don't know how they set the fees.
Okay.
All right. And then I also talked about the VAT rate. I mean, that is what can also drive the price down. If I have to give a total of, or put a total of 21% VAT, as compared to giving me a 3% flat rate, which will drive the price down, I think they should have a look at it.
Okay. Just by way of clarification, apart from VAT, what other taxes must you charge on a daily basis?
Well, so like you said, a lot of these statutory payments are yearly. But what I'm saying is that for a small hotel like mine, if you give me a property rate of 8,000 and BOP of 2,000 and environmental health and signboard fee of 5,000 and all those things, it becomes difficult for me. Maybe for others it is not too much, but for a one-star hotel, I don't know. I have my breakdowns. I don't want to go too public with it, but what we are saying is that it's one too many. They can consolidate this as an assembly, and for instance, give a hotel an X amount of money to pay to take care of all these things I'm talking about. You understand? And then that apart from that, we have GTA levy, we have to pay EPA, Food and Drugs Authority, fire permit, other ones. Why don't we look at merging some of these ones to make life easier for us, so that we can also pass on to the customers?
All right.
Well, just before we leave, I was going to say what can we do in the future, but it appears to me that the Ghana Tourism Authority actually thinks that the situation is fine. Nanayao, let me
from my end, like I've said, we've had this conversation. I appreciate the effort being made to address our situation, but if you remember, at Joy FM, I've been on this platform for the last how many years now, and I keep advocating for this, and I don't know how long it's going to take if we really, see tourism, the tourism sector as very important. I think that, serious work must be done to address this situation. I've talked about this flat rate for VAT. I've talked about special utility rates. I've talked about assemblies consolidating. And more importantly, arresting the dollar. I mean, it's very key, because a lot of these things we buy are imported. And so if the dollar keeps going, the CD keeps, devaluating, it becomes a problem. I mentioned prices of chicken and sausage and even egg, which is mostly produced locally, has shot up so high. And so it's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, like I said, my hotel, I don't think that my rates are outrageous. I don't think so at all. We are just trying to survive, because if you charge too high, you end up having an empty hotel and nobody will patronize you.
Right.
So it's not as if we don't care about people. You understand what I'm saying? But we must also survive. That's the fact of the matter. We must survive.
Thank you so much for your time with us. Nanayao is a hotelier here in Accra, and we also heard from Ben Anane Nsiah, who is the Deputy Chief Executive in charge of General Service at the Ghana Tourism Authority.